It's got to be real.
Be real. Be real. Yo guys, what's going on? So I wanted to do a video about Keith One-Time Thurman. Okay, so Keith Thurman, he was talked about very heavily as the next massive animal beast killer at 147 pounds. He's still undefeated, but for some reason or another, the hype of Keith Thurman has totally died off and it's shifted to Errol Spence. Now, we're not going to talk too much about Errol Spence. We're going to concentrate on Keith Thurman in this video. However, we're going to talk about if I believe and, you know, the different intangibles, because I don't like to just talk one thing, you know, I don't just like to look at it from one angle. I like to look at different perspectives. I don't, you know, I like to weigh things up, and that's how I like to do things. And whenever I think about something and anything in life, I like to look at both angles, as many sides as I can, as many opinions as I can. And I like to think of it in that manner. Keith Thurman, do I believe that he is still the 147-pound king to be? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Keith Thurman can still be that guy. I'll explain why. In boxing, okay, I think in boxing before, right, in the olden days, you could get away with certain things that you can't get away with now, and I'll explain why. Boxing has evolved, and Adrian Broner said this in an interview, and it got me thinking, and I thought, you know what, Adrian? You did get messed up by Marcus Maidana, but you are still a great champion, and I agree with you, okay? That boxing back in the olden days, although Joe Louis was an excellent tactician, although Muhammad Ali was an excellent tactician, I don't think there has been a boxer, including Willie Pep, including the very old greats, and I am a huge fan of the old fighters, including, you know, Iron Mike Tyson. He was a very underrated tactician in the ring. Now, I am going to go back to Keith Thurman, it is on my mind. But including all these old fighters who were excellent tacticians, even Muhammad Ali, right? There was not a fighter, in my opinion, in the history of boxing that I can really say technically that I saw who had the sharpness, the quickness, the reflexes, the defense, the technical capability of Floyd Mayweather Jr. I haven't seen it. Do you know what I mean? There was people who punched harder. There was people who did a lot of things better than Floyd Mayweather. But when it comes to technically in the ring, Willie Pep was one of the best. But I struggle to find anybody. I mean, there are fighters who are there. Who at the top of my head, I'm not really, you know, they were great fighters, right? There are great technicians. But I have to say, Floyd Mayweather Jr., 2015, Andre Berto, Saul Canelo Alvarez, Robert Guerrero, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather Jr. has shown on an elite, brilliant, excellent level of boxing. He has shown us that how good he is technically. You know, how a Marcus Maidana, who outweighed him by such a substantial amount. I mean, when Ray Robinson went in the ring against Jake LaMotta, he did him, right? Obviously, Ray Robinson went and beat his ass afterwards, but the point I'm making is, and I'm not saying Mayweather is greater than Ray Robinson, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that boxing currently, technically, has evolved. Okay? Now, why does that matter when I'm talking about Keith Thurman? And that little rant I did, why did I do that? The reason is because I feel that in the olden days of boxing, you could get away with a certain style, like jab, cross, bang, bang. If you had an aggressive style, you could get away with it. And the reason being is because there was no media in boxing. And because there was no media in boxing, in fact, you know what? I'm going to change this video. I'm not just going to talk about Keith Thurman. I'm going to talk generally about boxing, about how boxing has changed. I'm going to change the title of the video. But anyway, right, look. So with the media currently right now, right, with the technology that we have, every fight is recorded. We have access to all the old VHS tapes that used to exist, but we now have it on YouTube, okay? We can look at the very old fighters such as Sugar Ray Robinson. We can look at such as, we can go right back. We can even see clips of we can see clips of Willie Pep. We can see Henry Armstrong. We can see Muhammad Ali. We can see Sam Langford. We could see so many great fighters, Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis. We can go right back until what we have on tape. Anything that's available on tape is now available on the internet, and someone like Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to study all them. Back in the day, very few fighters used to study all the great old fighters because it was very difficult to get hold of VHS tapes and have everything there. Now we have the internet. So fighters now are looking and studying all the old greats. They've seen what they did good. They've really studied them and they're incorporating it into their game. However, having said this, on the other side, because like I said, I like to look at all different angles. Boxing now, fighters now do not have the coaches that of the old. I think the old coaches were much better and technically more experienced. And yes, boxing has been around for so many years, but I do feel that this media presence and this ability to access videotapes of all these old great fighters, I think it has had a tremendous effect on fighters. However, I don't think that the coaches nowadays are as good as the old coaches. I think that the art form of boxing has altered. Where did Keith Thurman fall into this? Keith Thurman falls into this because Keith Thurman is an adjustment fighter. Okay, this is not such a huge thing. In the 147 pounds division, who is an adjustment fighter? I think Danny Garcia is an adjustment fighter. Amir Khan is not an adjustment fighter. Robert Guerrero is not an adjustment fighter. Andre Berto is not an adjustment fighter. Kell Brook is a very good adjustment fighter. Several fighters in 100. Sean Porter is not an adjustment fighter. So what's my point? My point is, in boxing now, what you have to be able to do is look at what your opponent does, study him, and use the best style to beat him. Because one style will not beat every single fighter. Maybe back you see Ray Robinson was an adjustment fighter. But you see, now it has become even more, with media now, with being able to study fighters, and you have to now be able to adjust to opponents more than ever. Because before, you could come in with a certain style, and yeah, a fighter might have heard of you, but he very rarely would he have seen you on tape, if there was tape back in them old days. Do you know? Like when they say when Ray Robinson was in his prime, there's not really much, if any, footage of Ray Robinson at 147 pounds at his best. I've seen a few clips here and there, but really, there's not really much. So I mean, if you think back in them olden days, how many people had seen Ray Robinson fight? Some of his opponents might not have seen him fight, unless you've seen him fight live. You see what I mean? So I definitely do think a Ray Robinson would go around the world, fight everywhere, you know? So I do think that with this media presence and with videos available now, and it's such easy access, you go on the internet, it's there. I think that the importance of adjusting in boxing today has become so important. You can't just go rushing one style, because chances are your opponent will have seen that on tape and he will have prepared for that on tape and he'll know what you're coming with. And this is why Floyd Mayweather is so great, that because although everybody's seen him, he still hasn't lost, you know? He still finds a way to adjust and make subtle adjustments. Keith Thurman, Kell Brook are fighters who adjust. Okay? Now, does adjusting mean that you can beat any fighter? Not necessarily, because does it mean that Keith Thurman can go and beat Sean Porter? Not necessarily. Sean Porter's, although he knows what Porter's going to come and do, Porter might just come and rush him and he can't do anything about it. I mean, Adrian Broner couldn't do anything about it. Adrian Broner tries to adjust in a fight and he wasn't able to deal with Porter. Porter just did his style and did what he needed to do when he won the fight. Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. Kell Brook will try to adjust to Amir, try to knock Amir out, but does that mean he will knock Amir out? Not necessarily. Amir might just outbox him from the outside, hit him with jabs, left crosses, awkward punches, prepare really well with Virgil Hunter, carry out a game plan A, B, and C, and find one that works, and just outbox Kell Brook for 12 rounds, and Kell Brook might not be able to knock Amir out. Yeah, he might land at some point, maybe wobble Amir, but maybe he might not be able to get him out of there. You know, so what I'm saying is that adjusting doesn't necessarily mean that you win the fight, but it does help. Keith Thurman, I think, holds this huge thing that he is one of few adjustment fighters in the 147-pound division. There are a few who try to alter their fighting style with, what's put in front of them. But Keith Thurman does it where he can fight on the front foot as a really aggressive fighter. So if you put him in front of someone who's got, who hasn't got much power, or someone who doesn't have a really good chin, not necessarily a really good chin, but someone who doesn't, who can't take a shot, as who doesn't have a solid granite chin, who's not a come forward bull. It's like Keith Thurman if he faced Marcus Maidana, Keith Thurman if he faced Paulie Malignaggi, you'd see two different fights, right? See what I mean? Because Keith Thurman, the way he boxed Collazo early on and then he adjusted, he was on the back foot. You see, Keith Thurman has this ability to see a certain fighter might really struggle with someone who's on the back foot. And that's a weakness that they've got. And Keith Thurman, he's now really comfortable on the back foot. He moves pretty fast. He's not the best back foot fighter, but he's a good back foot fighter. And a good back foot fighter might be enough to beat Marcus Maidana. Just saying, do you know what I mean? So, but you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, a good backward fighter might have a better chance at Marcus Maidana than an excellent come forward fighter, because Marcus Maidana carries that much power. Do you see what I'm trying to say? You see what I'm coming up with? So Keith Thurman, I think, is one of very few fighters who, in the welterweight division, has the adjustment factor. He can adjust and fight in two major differently fighting styles. He can fight from the outside, he can box, he can go on the inside, he can brawl. However, are his natural intangibles that good that he can, overcome everyone in the welterweight division? I'm not too sure. Manny Pacquiao is a fighter who cannot adjust, in my opinion. I don't think he adjusts very well. I think Manny Pacquiao is the type of fighter, he comes on the night, he'll see what you've got, but really and truly, he'll do what the game plan, he'll carry out the game plan that was set by Freddie Roach. I mean, when Tim Bradley came to fight him in the second fight, Tim Bradley came to knock him out, surprised Pacquiao a little bit. Pacquiao went on the back foot and boxed. Everybody's got like ability to alter a little bit, but Keith Thurman, in my opinion, has the ability to do it brilliantly, where he can come as a really come forward, very aggressive fighter, and then all of a sudden he'll go on the back foot and box, and that's called adjusting. That is what you call adjusting. But what happens when he faces the likes of Errol Spence, when he faces Amir Khan, who's got some speed, and he can't, when he faces a fight who will miss, and if he misses, make him pay, a Marcus Maidana, maybe at 147, I don't know, if he returns, Sean Porter, who's coming forward aggressive, I think Thurman will adjust really well. I really do. But please leave your comment section below. Make sure you subscribe. I think Keith Thurman is still an excellent fighter. I think that just because of the one body shot against Collazo, and Collazo did go on to hurt and hunt down Thurman for that round and really gave him some. So, and he could have easily been stopped. He could have gone on the floor. We saw recently with Brandon Rios how Timothy Bradley caught Rios with a body shot, followed it up, and Rios was out of there and they stopped the fight. So yeah, it was a close fight for Thurman. That one shot where it hurt him, if the round went on for too much longer, maybe another minute, but it didn't. If some buts don't happen in boxing, it is what it is. Maybe Collazo maybe Collazo would have stopped him, but that's not what happened, and Thurman did win that fight, and I feel that in a rematch, Thurman will destroy him, so there's not really any point in rematch. But please leave a comment section below, subscribe as always, let me know what you think of Keith one-time Thurman. Do you think he's still the king of the 147-pound division? I think that because of the technical aspects that I've spoken about, I think that he definitely holds the capability to be one of the top elite level 147-pounders and really demolish much of the 147-pound division, because he can't just... Sean Porter, for example, comes in against him, Keith Thurman's going to go on the back foot, bang, counter punch him hard. That's going to be the game plan. He'll see what Porter's got. If Porter wants to go on the back foot, Thurman will just come on the front foot. If Amir Khan faces Thurman, if Amir Khan decides to try and use angles, Keith Thurman has the capability to go forward and be fast and counter punch Amir, catch him when he's turning Keith Thurman, right? Use his body movement, use the inside fighting, And if Keith Thurman and Amir Khan inside fight, we know what happens in that. But but again, my point is, if he does face someone like Khan eventually, I do think that he will struggle with Amir Khan's speed and body shots. So maybe you can adjust, but if you don't have that natural ability to be able to take shots to the body, you don't have natural capability, natural speed, you're not as fast, you might be able to adjust, but unless you're as good as Floyd Mayweather Jr., It doesn't. That's not the be all end all. Errol Spence, maybe a hard body shot from Errol Spence could put Thurman down. You see what I mean? So Keith Thurman is still a brilliant, excellent fighter, but I think he's got to prove. We've just got seeing is believing. Basically, he's got to prove to us and beat 3 or 4 of the top elite fighters to be crowned a king. But I do think he has the capability. I do. Comment section below. Please make sure you subscribe. Keith One Time Thurman overrated, or do you think that he is still the next big thing in £147? In a bit, guys.